The roots beneath my skin. The moment I stepped through the door, I could feel their eyes on me, heavy, judgmental, like the weight of 1,000 unsaid words. It had been years since I last stood in this house, the place where I was once a prodigy, the golden child, before I became the family disgrace. I could still hear their laughter echoing in my mind, mocking me for my obsession with plants that whispered secrets and roots that reached into nightmares. "You'll lose your mind, Alex," my father had said, his voice thick with disdain. "You're playing with fire and we'll be the ones burned." But I hadn't burned. I had risen from the ashes of their derision, becoming an expert in the very thing they had scorned. My research into paranormal plant pathology was now respected, if not feared, in academic circles. They had dismissed me then, but the world had come to recognize the truths I unearthed about the flora that thrived on the edges of reality, where shadows danced and sanity frayed. I was no longer the delusional son they had cast aside. I was a warning. As I stepped into the living room, the air thickened with tension. My mother's eyes widened in disbelief. "Alex?" she whispered, as if uttering my name was a spell. I was no longer the child they had raised. I was something else entirely. The velvet curtains, once vibrant, now hung like ghosts, and the wallpaper peeled as if it too was trying to escape. "Your father wanted to burn those cursed plants," she said, her voice trembling. "He thought you were crazy." "Did you ever wonder why they kept coming back?" I asked, my voice steady yet laced with a chilling undertone. Why they thrived in the shadows, feeding off the history of this place. My brother Jason stood with arms crossed, a smirk plastered on his face. "You think you're some kind of expert now? Just because you've published a few papers?" I felt a tug of something deep within me, a reminder of the countless nights spent cataloging Sentient Flora, plants that had eyes and mouths that whispered the names of the lost. They had called me insane, yet here I was, alive and thriving, while they remained ensnared in their ignorance. "I've come to show you the truth," I replied, my voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, the real horror of what I found. I pulled a small glass jar from my satchel, the kind I had used to capture a specimen from the abandoned orchard on the outskirts of town. Inside, a twisted root pulsed with a faint green luminescence, squirming as if it had a life of its own. "This is what I've been studying, Sentient Flora, plants that remember, that seek revenge on those who wronged them." Jason's laughter rang out, a harsh sound that broke the fragile atmosphere. "You're seriously going to show us a weed and call it a monster? Get real, Alex." But my mother's eyes were locked on the jar, and I could see the flicker of fear in her gaze. "What do you mean, revenge?" I leaned closer, lowering my voice. "The plants are a reflection of the pain they've endured. They remember the blood spilled on the earth, the betrayal and loss. They can sense fear and anger. And they've grown stronger in the darkness, feeding on the very emotions that bind us." A chill swept through the room, and I could feel the air grow heavy, charged with something palpable. I unscrewed the lid, releasing a faint, acrid scent that filled the space. "Watch closely." The root surged forth, writhing like a serpent, and I felt a shudder ripple through my body. The room darkened, shadows creeping along the walls, twisting and contorting as if alive. My family recoiled, their faces draining of color. "What have you done?" my father's voice quavered, finally breaking the silence. "I've shown you what you refuse to see. This is the burden of knowledge, the price of ignorance." And then the root lunged, breaking free from the jar. It slithered across the floor, moving with a purpose that sent a jolt of terror through me. It reached for my father first, wrapping around his ankle like a vine of dread. pulling him down with a force that was both horrifying and mesmerizing. "Help me!" he cried, panic overtaking his voice, but my hands remained frozen, caught between fear and a strange sense of vindication. The shadows thickened, swirling around us, revealing the faces of the past lost townsfolk. Forgotten souls, their eyes hollow and filled with the weight of betrayal. They were drawn to my father, to the man who had cast aside my dreams without a second thought, and now he was to face the very horror he had mocked. "Alex, please!" My mother's voice broke, her fear palpable as she reached for me. I turned my gaze to her, feeling the roots of my own pain entwining with the roots of the earth. "You wanted me to be normal, to fit in. But I found my truth among the shadows, and now you must confront the consequences of your disbelief." With a final desperate cry, my father was pulled into the darkness that had emerged, consumed by the very roots that had survived on the edges of our family's scorn. The room fell silent, the air heavy with the echoes of their disbelief. As I stood amidst the remnants of my family's shattered reality, I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. I had returned, not just to confront them, but to reveal the darkness they had clung to in their ignorance. I walked toward the door, the twisted roots still writhing at my feet, a reminder of what I had become, a vessel of knowledge and horror. As I stepped outside into the cool night air, I felt the weight of my family's judgment lift. They had learned too late that the truth was far more terrifying than any delusion. And as I looked back at the house, I knew that the roots beneath my skin had finally found their home.